Would you believe me if I told you that there are many places that disappear underwater from time to time? Well, yes, there are some locations on our planet that, for one reason or another, are completely submerged by water. But the most incredible thing is that they resurface as if nothing happened, and you can visit them right now. So, today, I want to introduce you to the mysterious places that disappear underwater. And don't worry, I'll explain why they do. Let's get started. Angel Road is a 500 meters in bar located in Japan that only appears twice a day when the beach tide is at its lowest. When it emerges, it forms this curious path that connects the islets and Oshima. And it is said that all lovers who cross this small path will be blessed with fortune and everlasting love. If you have someone special in your life, it would be a good idea to cross this place with them. Upon reaching one of the islets, you can write your wishes on a tablet and hang them on a tree, simply waiting for them to come true. In addition, the nearby beaches are an ideal destination for picnics for couples. Yes, everything around Angel Road is pure love. That's why it's a magnificent place for couples from all over who come here not only to cross this path that is almost always hidden underwater, but also to spend a romantic time with their significant others. The Tercio Bridge is located in Madrid, Spain, and was built in the 18th century by order of King Carlos III to create a shorter route to El Escorial. It served to cross what was once a stream and functioned until 1972 when it was completely submerged by the Valmea Reservoir. For this reason, another bridge had to be built next to it, much more modern and in tune with the city's architecture. Thus, for decades, the Tercio Bridge remained completely submerged with no traces of it. However, a few years ago, it emerged from its watery grave after a prolonged drought caused the stream's water level to drop. Yes, the lack of rain caused this bridge to resurface, and it was practically passable, just like in its heyday. But this was temporary because when the rainy season returned, it was only a matter of time before the reservoir made it disappear again. Since then, the bridge is only visible during periods of drought. Manillad's beaches are among the best in the world, with crystal clear water and extremely white sand that you could admire for hours. However, during high tide, all the beaches disappear under the sea. This place features cottages in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by fine white sands. As you can see, they are quite high because the sea level tends to rise aggressively, engulfing everything in the fine sand. So, the best advice if you plan to visit is to check the tides in the area to enjoy it properly. But don't be discouraged if the tide rises. Another option is to visit the cottages and spend time observing the dolphins in the area. However, swimming with them is prohibited as they are not trained, which could be dangerous. Manillad is a very popular tourist destination, and whether the tide is low or high, the experience is almost paradisiacal. The Playa de las Catedrales is one of the most touristy beaches in all of Spain, not only for its beauty but also because the tide usually swallows it when it rises. Initially called Playa de Aguas Santas, the locals began to call it Las Catedrales because of the large number of enormous rocks with shapes of arches and towers similar to those you can find in a cathedral. In fact, these arches and caves are what attract tourists the most from all over, but they are only visible when the tide is low, at which point the beach is quite extensive, and you can even access other neighboring beaches. But you have to be very careful in this place, as the sea level can rise very rapidly and without warning, which could be extremely dangerous if you are not accompanied by a guide or if you are far from the beginning of the coast, and even with the sea level at its peak. This place remains spectacular due to the crashing waves against the rocks and looking like a quite different beach within minutes of the tide rising. The East Quarry Lighthouse, or Heath Haba Lighthouse, is located on a small rocky islet at the northern tip of Campo Bello Island, New Brunswick, Canada, and it can only be accessed during low tides. It turns out that, on this coast, the sea level can rise unexpectedly, enough to sink the entrance to the lighthouse. It was built in 1829, and it was only a year later that people realized that the tide rose in such a way that it affected this structure. In 1830, there was a storm that raised the sea level too much, and it broke the lighthouse, the boats nearby, and any movable object inside, including a cow that was on the site. Fortunately, the animal could swim to a nearby shore and survived. In the end, it was repaired to prevent another tide from doing something like that again, but that doesn't prevent it from being inaccessible when this happens. Mont Saint-Michel is a village built on a small rocky island in the estuary of the Couesnon River in Normandy, France, and it is a site that seems to resist being claimed by the sea. In this area, tides can rise up to 14 meters, which prompted the ancient builders to turn this village into a fortress against floods. Therefore, most buildings are quite tall, but the island was surrounded by the sea and couldn't be avoided. So, there were two ways to enter here: wait for low tide to walk or use a boat to cross these waters. This was the case for many centuries until today, when a road was built to the foot of the island that does not flood under any circumstances. Being a majestic architectural work with centuries of history, it is amazing how it was designed to fight against nature. and that's why it was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Curio Bay is a coastal inlet located in New Zealand, known for hosting a petrified forest that is hidden under high tide. This forest has been there for over 180 million years, and the significant flooding caused by tides and debris produced by the volcano behind it ended up petrifying it. Yes, the trunks are completely made of stone and cover an estimated 20 kilometers in distance, so it's a fairly large forest. But when the tide is high, it is a completely accessible place for tourists, and it is one of the few fossilized forests in the world that can be visited. Of course, always when the sea level allows it. This site also serves as home to a large colony of yellow-eyed penguins, possibly the rarest penguin species of all, and it is believed that there are just over 3,000 individuals there. For all these reasons, Curio Bay receives about 100,000 tourists a year. Le Passage du Gois is a road in Bourgneuf Bay that connects Noirmoutier Island with the rest of France. It is about 4.5 kilometers long, but it is not just any road because it disappears underwater when the tide rises. The water level usually varies from 1.3 meters to 4 meters, so it practically leaves no trace that there is a path. This happens most of the day, making it completely impassable during that time. Not only that, but the rising tide is very unpredictable and fast, so if you find yourself halfway and it starts to rise, you would be in serious trouble. For this reason, it is considered one of the most dangerous roads in the world and can only be crossed at a very specific time to ensure that no one gets stranded in the middle of it. These 4 statues you see on the screen are part of a work called Rising Tide, and they are located near the Vauxhall Bridge in London. They seem to be simple sculptures on the banks of the River Thames, but when the tide rises, they almost disappear underwater, revealing little more than the heads of some horses and the human figures riding them. These are part of the work of Jason D. Cares-Taylor, a London sculptor who wanted to portray the industrial history of London, reflecting the excessive work and architecture of this city. That's why the horses don't have heads as such, but rather pump heads used for onshore oil extraction. This is a peculiar airport located in the wide Traquair Bay, at the northern tip of Barry Island in Scotland, and it is characterized as the only airport in the world where the runways are on a beach. Yes, just as you heard. It actually has 3 runways, and they are marked with wooden posts. Being such a unique airport, only small aircraft can operate there. Definitely, a commercial plane could not take off or land at this location. But the most curious thing about this place is that when the tide is high, the runways are completely flooded, making landings and takeoffs impossible. In these cases, you have to request landings at a nearby airport or reschedule flights until the sea level drops. Therefore, flight schedules vary a lot depending on the tide predictions. Well, that's all for today. If you loved this video, don't forget to share it with friends and follow us to learn new curiosities every week. This is Hallucinated, and we'll see you in the next one.